Facebook, which just takes me a minute here. Live stream to Facebook. Yeah, I'm doing better at this, Debbie.
I know. Look at you, superstar. It only took us a year.
I know, right?
No, you're doing great. I love it.
Do you have your other thing showing it all?
Other thing.
The let's see, meeting title on Facebook. Who can see this? Share
I
on your
am logged into
timeline.
Facebook too to see
Share on your
what it says.
timeline.
Oh, you're gonna have to switch it. I think it's gonna go on your timeline then.
Yeah, why is it doing that?
Maybe there's a way
Share to your
to.
page. Hang on. Oh, here we go. I got it.
You
Here.
got it?
Yeah, I
Awesome.
did. I do. It's
Okay.
been a couple of weeks. All right.
Oh, yeah.
You need a 13-year-old to guide you.
Oh my
Right.
gosh, not even kidding.
Content is being sent to one. Okay, so I'm gonna double check, make sure it gets loaded on Facebook, but
Yeah,
it's gonna take about a minute. There's a little delay.
yeah, yeah.
All right. Okay,
All
so
righty. So welcome, Karen. We are so happy to have you here. I've got her bio pulled up, Debbie, so I'll go ahead and read it.
awesome.
And welcome to
Great.
all of our fans and viewers. Um, Karen, do you pronounce your last name Cezerno?
Cezerno.
Cezerno. Got it. All right. I was close.
You're very close.
Kind of close, a little bit. I don't know. All right. So, anyways, Karen is here. She's a nationally board certified health coach, menopause expert, which we need, and personal trainer dedicated to helping midlife women thrive. Through her coaching, she guides women in navigating menopause, building strength, and embracing wellness. Having faced her own midlife struggles, she's passionate about empowering others with humor, authenticity, and real talk. She focuses on movement, hormone health, and mindful living, offering support so you can live your healthiest and happiest life and make these years our best. So welcome, Karen. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us today.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
Yeah. So tell us about you and what was the shift for you when you became 50 and like how did all that kind of play out?
Right. It happened a little bit before 50. So I've been health coaching for about 10 years. I have been health coaching for about 10 years at this point. And I'll be 52 in a couple weeks. And it was about 46 so about 6 years ago, when I started going through my own perimenopause journey. And I was struggling with all of these things. And as a health coach, as a fitness trainer, as a nutritionist, I was doing all of the right things. And still, I was struggling with, I had gained 30 pounds, like overnight, it felt like. I was struggling with brain fog and joint pain, and my eyesight changed. I had ringing in the ears. I had heart palpitations. I had bloating and constipation. And it was just literally from head to toe. I could like name off all of these things that were happening. And before, at 45, I felt amazing. I was energized and in the best shape of my life. I always tell people I had like Instagram worthy abs for the first time in my life. I do not have that now. And so as I was going through this, I was talking to my mom and I'm like, I don't understand what is happening. All of these things, I'm still doing everything that I've done in the past. And I'm just like, my body is betraying me. And she just kind of looks at me and she's like, well, it sounds like you're going through perimenopause. I had never heard that word before. And so I was like, what are you talking about? What is this word that you're utilizing? Which I have to say, I was pretty impressed that my mom knew perimenopause, because I don't know that that was like a term we threw around.
right.
And so that was when I was like, wait a minute, if I'm in the health field and I don't know what to do and I'm struggling, what is the average woman doing with all of this? Unless they're being educated. But the more I talk to my girlfriends and my clients, my fitness clients, nobody knew anything and we didn't really talk about it. And so that is when I just decided to shift everything and really take a deep dive into learning everything I could about menopause and this transition. And so that's what I've been working on for the past 6 years. and just basically making it my mission to educate everyone. And that is all I talk about. My son is well versed in menopause at 22. I'm sure he loves that. But I think we need to know, and I think we need to be prepared. And I think we need to have open and honest discussions about it. So that's just really kind of where the shift happened. And as I've been moving through my 50s, I think one of the biggest shift is really with regard to menopause is really leaning into my girlfriends and that circle.
Yes.
And creating this healthy environment where women can feel it's okay that you've gained 30 pounds. Like, we love you no matter what. And it's okay if you're getting gray hair. And it's okay if you forget what you're talking about. And it's okay if you have to go pee in the middle of the jumping jacks. Like, we still love you. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I've really honed in on going through this is giving myself grace, but also recognizing that my circle needs grace. And I don't know that they're getting it everywhere.
Mhm. That's amazing, Karen. I think it's great how, especially this generation and someone like you, who are now we're not quiet about those
No.
menopausal symptoms, and bringing out the awareness, because I totally get that. Like you, it's all I ever talk about. And this generation, our generation that are going through it, we're much more outspoken, and we're not taking. I feel like we're just not taking, oh, you're just going through a change of life as an answer. Yeah, I'm like,
Right,
but
right.
I can't feel like this the rest of my life.
Yeah,
There's
no,
got
no.
to be something. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's the other thing a lot of people don't think about is even if you go through perimenopause, and perimenopause can be, a year to 15 years.
Right.
Once I'm post-menopause, which is literally the next day, because menopause is only one day. Once I'm post-menopause, I'm there for the rest of my life. So you want us to live in this state for 40 years, possibly, of being uncomfortable and just accepting that that's just the way things are. And so we are fortunate that these Gen Xers are standing up and making noise. And I think, one, we have the luxury of we have more access to research. With the internet, it makes it easier. It makes it easier for us to communicate with other people. It makes it easier to reach out to people that are experts in the field. And so we are fortunate. But the funny thing is, and I don't know if you've talked to your moms, grandmothers, aunts about, what was your menopause journey? So many of the women that I talk to, whether it's friends or clients or just women I run into, a lot of them say, well, my mom never really said anything because she had a hysterectomy. My mom had a hysterectomy, and it was almost like everybody, that was the thing, kind of like when we all had C-sections for a small period of time through pregnancies. All of a sudden, C-sections were like the hot commodity. I feel like they were just giving out hysterectomies back in the day to our poor little boomer moms. And so everybody was catapulted into menopause. So their experience was so different. And I think we missed out on that opportunity of learning from them because it's not what ours looks like.
Yeah. I think too, like Gina and I were talking about this. Actually, we had one of our episodes about it, like what our mother didn't tell us. I think also for women at that age, they also just didn't talk about it. And it just, something that they didn't. I know my mom never talked about menopause. And looking back now, as I remember her once she hit menopause or in her 50s, how her health rapidly declined. And
Yeah.
when you ask them, and this is the other thing, Karen, is please tell us like how to help women recognize that it's not about hot flashes, just hot flashes, because there are just so many other symptoms. And you mentioned the heart palpitations. No one could figure out where my heart palpitations came from. And they were so uncomfortable until I started estrogen, is when they just completely went away.
Yeah.
And just understanding that it is just so many other symptoms other than hot flashes too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's funny because when I was going through all of it, and I knew at one point, obviously, that I would be going through menopause, I was thinking mid-50s, later 50s, but I didn't have any hot flashes. It wasn't probably until 3-4 years into perimenopause that I actually experienced a hot flash. And I think that's what so many of us are waiting for. They don't know to look for, the changes in your cycle. Are you noticing that you're skipping a month? Are your periods closer? Are they further apart? Are they heavier? Are they lighter? are they longer? Are they shorter? Anything that is abnormal from what you've had consistently, that's a sign, right?
Yes.
When I first started doing research, like I said, 6 years ago, it was 40 of the most common symptoms. So ranging from, dryness, itchy skin, feeling like you have bugs crawling on you, which is such a far one. Vertigo. I started getting really bad vertigo. That was tied to menopause. Obviously a drop in libido, the joint pain. So it was about 40 symptoms that we really talked about 6 years ago. Depending on who you are listening to now, some say there's between 70 and 120 common symptoms of menopause. And so the only thing we can do is just kind of get familiar with what should we be looking for and really tune into what our body is telling us, because our body is constantly whispering. Fatigue is a big one. Like I remember just not being able to get off the couch. I was exhausted. And I'm like, why am I so like first trimester pregnancy exhausted? Why am I so tired? And that was another one that no one really ever talked about. And so just putting all of that together, putting the puzzle pieces together. But the biggest thing we can do is educate ourselves and then listen to what our body needs, because it is constantly telling us stuff. And we need to listen to the whispers before it really starts to scream at us.
I think what's really hard is when you do listen and you go to some providers and you're kind of brushed off as, oh, well, same thing for me, the heart palpitations, I went through a full stress, like full workup, stress test.
Yes.
And they found nothing, and there was nothing afterwards, like, let's dig deeper or anything like that. And had no clue that all of these things I went to be seen for that ended up being nothing,
right,
really were part of the whole, like looking back, my oldest daughter just asked me about this because she's been having some symptoms and different things. And she's like, when did this start for you? And I said, I really can't pinpoint exactly, but this is when I remember going to doctors about this and about that and keep being told you're made to feel like you're crazy.
Yes.
So
that's a very good point. And the other thing too, Karen, is how do we prepare ourselves to go to our providers? Because that's the other thing. I talk to a lot of my coworkers who are women about menopause too. And several of them, many of them say, well, my doctor says it's just this. I spoke to one woman who had several shoulder cortisone injections for the frozen shoulder. I had the frozen shoulder. I had that frozen shoulder and it went away with estrogen, but they keep giving her the cortisone shots. And how do we educate even our providers? Because the providers are not educated in these other extra symptoms other than hot flashes. It seems like the medical field there's a huge gap between our symptoms and what our provider is recognizing as menopause.
Yeah, there definitely is. And I think one of the biggest things is we just assume that they are experts in what they do. And they might have been the expert that delivered your baby and they were the best doctor ever for you for that season. But we're in a new season now. And so a lot of women don't understand that the medical training could be 1 day, it could be 2 weeks. They don't get a lot of medical training when it comes to menopause and this third season of our life. And so they could also, the training that they could be stuff from like 2002 when we were still unsure about hormone replacement therapy. So I think the biggest thing, number one, is it is okay to ask your doctor, is this your wheelhouse? Do you feel equipped to take care of me during this new season? And if not, is it okay? Could you give me a referral? And that way you're kind of giving them an out where they can say, honestly, this really isn't my strength. Let me send you to somebody else. But we want to also feel empowered that if they don't acknowledge that and they think that they can take care of it, that we are empowered with the information to get a second opinion, get a third opinion. Because unfortunately, they don't have all the information. They have to seek out additional training if they really want to know more. They're not given it in school. And so that is the thing that I was running into with so many of my clients, being dismissed. You're too young. Let me just put you on birth control, a stronger birth control. Let me do antidepressants. Let's check back in 6 months and see how you're feeling. all of these different things where they're just basically gaslighting you, feeling like you're going crazy. And that's
Yes.
exactly why I wrote the book that I wrote. I wrote a wellness tracker for women to be able to track their experience. And so there's over 20 trackers in there. You can track your sleep, your stress, your medications, your treatments, your supplements, your cycle, your workouts, your nutrition. And basically the whole goal is you go in with data. They can't dismiss you if you've got everything right there in writing. Like they have to acknowledge, I'm seeing all of this on paper. And if they do dismiss you, then you definitely know this is not the person for you. That is a red flag. And so
Correct.
the biggest thing is we have to go armed with the information. We have to be tracking what's going on with our body. We have to be writing it down. We have to go in prepared. Have your questions ready to go. You've got about 4.5 minutes of their time, if you're lucky, you know. It's really not that short, but you know, you've got to go in prepared. And the best thing we could do is kind of monitor what's going on with our body. What are we noticing? What's different than, you know, what it was last week, last month, whatever. Because a lot of times we go in and they're like, well, how are you sleeping? And you're thinking, how did I sleep last night? You're not thinking about, well, what has been my pattern over the past 3 months?
Right.
I had a hot flash 2 weeks ago. I didn't think about it when I'm at the doctor's office, whatever. The more we can track, the less they can dismiss us.
I love that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Just advocating for yourself. You have to advocate for yourself.
Have to. And I think it's so funny because as moms or as caregivers of our aging parents, as even for my dogs, I would go in asking questions to make sure they're getting the best possible care. And if somebody said, oh, well, your kid, you know, just let's check back with your kid in 6 months, we would all be like, no, we want answers now. But we don't do that for ourselves. We just kind of accept it and we stay quiet and we don't want to rock the boat. And so we go on our merry way. And this gives us the confidence to go in and say, no, I need you to address this.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes, for sure.
absolutely. So, with your clients, most of them that come to you that are in menopause. So tell us, like, you know, some of the stuff, like, I know that there's like fitness and there's diet and then talking about hormones too. So just give us a little bit of, you know, what you advise them on and some of the
Yeah.
things
So
that
usually, some of my clients come to me strictly for fitness. I run an outdoor fitness group for women over 40 in my community. So some of them start there thinking that's what they need, right? Work out more, eat less, because that's what we're told.
Right.
And then they start to realize that we probably need to address some other things. But when sitting down with somebody, we kind of look at the main things. Let's look at your stress levels. You know, so many of us are like, I'm not stressed because we've been doing the same things over and over again. And then when we start to look at the responsibilities, aging parents, launching kids, planning for retirement, shifts in, you know, relationships. There's a lot that's coming at us. So we look at stress, we look at sleep. How are you sleeping? If I'm noticing a pattern of your sleep because you've been tracking it, that might be a sign that you need to talk to your provider about testing you for your progesterone, because that's a good sign that something is off there when sleep is off. We look at the nutrition. I get people ask me all the time, what's the best diet? There is no diet for menopause, but if you're going to lean into a certain type of eating style, I try to talk to them about the Mediterranean diet. And then we look at what is your fitness? Are you still doing what you did in your early 40s? And you're realizing this isn't working for my body anymore. So we look at how, you know, what kind of cardio are you getting? Are you doing strength training? You know, are you also incorporating some balance training, some flexibility training, some mobility training? So we look at those 4 key elements. And then of course, I always ask them, when's the last time you get your blood work done? And a lot of them will say it's been a while, or my doctor says that, you know, there's no test for perimenopause. There is no test for perimenopause, but we can at least get some numbers down and we can kind of go from there. It's easier if your cycle is a little bit more regular. When your cycle is a little wonkier as we get closer to menopause, then you're really going to focus on treating the symptoms. And so are you writing down your symptoms? How often is it happening? What is the severity of the symptoms? And so we just kind of look at what is the whole picture of the individual.
Yeah.
very good.
I've told Debbie about this and it's come up in a few conversations. The big thing for me was the frozen shoulder And I, got that really bad in the one arm. Later on, a few years later, I got it in the other arm. But when I got it in the first arm, I went to a orthopedic and he said, you have frozen shoulder. I thought I had a torn rotator cuff or something.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, we don't know
Yeah.
why this happens. A lot of times it can be associated with like autoimmune disorders. But we see it a lot in women who are developing MS. So I'm going through my life. I start getting the vertigo. I'm looking up symptoms of MS. I, have itchy skin. I'm looking up symptoms of MS.
Right.
Got myself convinced
Yes.
by what he said. So I love that you said that, educate ourselves, like making sure that we know these symptoms. And I think too, Karen, the beautiful thing that you're doing is you're educating others. So they're aware that these can be things that are tied, may or may not be, but could be tied
Mhm.
to menopause
right.
and, and how to advocate for yourself with that information.
Yes, and just a lot of it is just looking at putting the puzzle pieces together. And it's hard
Yeah.
because it is so unique. We are all so different when it comes to this experience. And I think that's another challenge for a lot of doctors. But if they take the time to kind of look at our picture individually, I think they could find some ways to support us. But it
Yeah.
is very individualized. And just because something works for your sister or your neighbor or
Yeah.
your coworker doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Karen, the other thing too is I found interesting is like the way fitness has changed for women in menopause too. One of the things that, I started actually a few years ago with my husband is weight training
Yes.
and how,
Yeah.
back in the day, back in everything was aerobics and running
Mhm.
and the cardio was such a huge focus for women to lose weight and to be slender. But how weight training is so important for, keeping our muscle mass and our bones from, protecting us from osteoporosis and having women, be open to adding the weight training and letting them
Yeah.
know because they had this misconception that the heavier they lifted, the more they were going to look like a guy or get
Right.
bulky or get bulky. But honestly, that's like one of the things that really like I feel like just rejuvenated after weight training. Just like it helps even my joints feel better. So I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I like weight training, educating women at this age that no, you should be lifting weights at this age.
Yeah. And I mean, if you haven't started, you need to start. And it doesn't matter if you are post-menopause too.
Right.
So weight training is a big one. Strength training is a big one. And so that's like when I said, when I talk to somebody about their movement is let's look at what you are doing. So before perimenopause, I was running half marathons. I don't think I could run a mile. I know I couldn't run a mile right now. Like everything hurts. It's just uncomfortable. So I've shifted my cardio to walking because it's easier on the joints. And it's just better for me. And so it's really looking at what have you done in the past and what does your body need right now? Strength training is definitely a plus. We do want it for our bones because our bone density changes dramatically as we're going through perimenopause, and even in postmenopause, it dips even more. And then to protect us from osteoporosis. But the more muscle mass we have, and that doesn't mean actual like muscles, even though those are very sexy, we love those. But the more muscle mass we have, the better our metabolism works. So our body works harder to fuel muscle than it does to fuel fat. So your metabolism is working better, you've got more muscle on you. So that's another great reason to strength train. Plus, it's good for your mental health. And so I tell people to get rid of those cute pink weights from Target. Those are adorable, but let's go a little bit heavier. And for some people, heavy might be a 15-pound dumbbell. For some people, it might be bench pressing, 75 pounds with some assistance. It's really whatever is working for you. Do we still want cardio? Of course, because it's good for our heart health, but your cardio might look different. You might go to walking instead of running, or maybe you only do one long run instead of 3 or 4 a week. Do we still want HIIT training? We do, but not as often. HIIT training is great, but it elevates our cortisol levels we can only have them elevated so much because our estrogen, it's a real battle for our estrogen when we keep spiking them. And so
Yeah.
it would be, you know, taking down the HIIT training to 1 time a week. And then just looking at other fun ways that you can move your body. Maybe it's a Zumba class, maybe it's swimming.
Yeah.
There's so many great ways to exercise without having to feel like you have to be in a gym or join a CrossFit or whatever. Yoga's great.
Yeah.
Pilates is great. Tai Chi is great.
Yeah.
A lot of options.
Excellent.
But yeah, it is important to look at that and just to kind of reevaluate it. And I think one of the big things that we also talk about a lot is mindset. We have to get away from comparing ourselves to who we were and then also looking ahead, well, this is what I want to be. You know what? We need to focus on this girl right now. Who is she right now? And what does she need right now in the moment? And let's just hone in on that. And so mindset is a big one when it comes to midlife and menopause. And just,
Absolutely.
you know, loving ourselves in the moment
Yeah.
and still, I mean, we can still be, you know, love those things that we did in our 20s and our 30s and our 40s and miss that, but we need to love this person now and make new memories. You know, get rid of the jeans that are sitting in your closet. Let's get new jeans that fit your body right now, and let's let her feel beautiful. So mindset
Love
is a big
that.
one too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Love that. And the whole thing on flexibility too, Karen, because I found that, I mean, I laugh because I used to be a gymnast in high school and I
Yeah.
watched these gymnastic reels that they got, you know, I'm like, oh, I used to be able to do some of that, not all that. But I used to be able to do the splits really good and move around. And now I'm like, you know, finding that I'm less flexible. So I think that flexibility is key because it's going to keep your body the ability to keep moving. And if is
Right.
that correct? Like,
Yes. And I
okay.
would say it's not even just us, not even, you know, ladies in the midlife. Our lives are so easy now in the sense that everything could be brought to us. So we sit all the time. So we have limited range of motion. I mean,
Yeah.
even kids, ask them, you know, to be able to move and to stretch in certain ways and to be able to put their arms behind them or whatever it is. They have very limited range of motion too, because we just don't move the way we used to move. And so, yes, if we want to have that high quality life, if we want to
Yeah.
live, by, you know, on our own for an extended period of time without being a burden, we need to be able to have the mobility to move, to reach, to bend,
Yeah.
go side to side. And I think a lot of that stems from just being sedentary. And so we're
Yeah.
all guilty of it. It's just
Mhm.
prioritizing. It could just be sitting while you're watching TV and stretching and try to loosen things up. Going for walks, you know, every hour or two instead of sitting at your desk for 6, 7 hours at a time. You know,
Yeah.
just being able to move your body more.
And I think too is at this age too is when once we get closer to once we are in menopause and you know getting on in years is it's okay to keep moving, just keep
Yeah,
moving. And
yeah,
sometimes in the old thought was as you get older you need to settle down and you need to just like you know the old you know back in the day like you'd have like the grandma in the rocking chair kind of a thing that age you know age is just a number and just keep doing what you love to do. You don't have to slow down. I mean, maybe not as, you know, aggressively as you used to do, but keep your activities and your interests, you know, keep doing those things that you like to do
yeah.
at this age.
Mhm.
You know,
Well, it's so good for your mental health as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
But I
yeah,
think so many women get in the mindset that, okay, once menopause is over, and, you know, once that one day, because I don't think a lot of people understand that menopause is only one day. Once that one day is over and you go into postmenopause on day 366, so many I think are like, all right, I'm done. You know, life is good. I can take it from here, right? And postmenopause is needs to be as much of a priority as perimenopause. It's just different. And
yeah,
so the risk for osteoporosis, for cardiovascular disease, for cognitive
mhm,
decline skyrocket. And so
yeah,
continuing to move, going for hikes, going for walks, strength training is so important in
Yeah.
postmenopause.
Yeah.
And, you
mhm,
know, long term, you're here for as long as you can. And so My oldest client is 74 that comes out and works out with us, and she is amazing.
Wow. Wow. So commitment too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It is.
Mm.
What
I
else?
was, go ahead.
That's it, right? I mean, what else are you doing at 74? You got plenty of time to go work out. Enjoy your
I
life.
know, totally. You know, it's funny. I was in the medical field for 33 years, and I worked in geriatrics. And we had
Mm.
one patient who was like, you would have never guessed her age. I think she was like 80 something, and she looked fabulous. And I remember asking her, I'm like, you know, when I saw her birthday, and I had to repeat the birthday to her, and I was like, and I leaned into her and I said, my God, you look fabulous. Like, what is your secret? And she said, don't stop moving. She
Mhm.
goes, don't stop moving. You know,
Yeah.
and that was, I was like, okay, that's exactly what she said. She's like, motion is the lotion. Don't stop moving.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it really is. Yeah. And it could be anything. It could be gardening, it could be dancing, whatever it is. Find something that brings you joy, but just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
But yeah, I think also it's just like also, you know, Karen, the fear of the hormones that people are still, sometimes women are still a little like, as soon as you start suggesting maybe talk to your doctor about hormone replacement, you get all of these like, oh, you know, I don't know, or you know, I would rather go through it naturally and not have to worry about, you know, the other side effects of it. But
Right.
I think is like also this, you know, dispelling some of the fear of taking the HRTs, you know, giving them the research now and you know what's new, and you know the transdermal patch is so different than how they used to take it orally, and you know that we've come such a long way with
Mhm.
research and with the medication,
Yeah.
you know. It's I have a girlfriend who like decided to start hormonal therapy, and she told me, she's like, my joints, she's like, I started feeling better. I have less inflammation. I'm
Mhm.
feeling much better. But her sister is very angry at her because she's like, oh, why do you want to take that stuff? Blah, 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 blah. And I tell her, I says, you have to advocate for yourself and you have to do what's good for you, you know?
Right. Right.
So, you know,
Well, and it's funny because these are the same people that will take aspirin and they'll take other supplements and they'll drink alcohol and they'll take, you know, pills and,
Eat
you know, for
pizza.
other things. Yes. And
Yeah.
so you're like, wait a minute, you're going to put that in your body.
Right.
Yes, we have way more up-to-date research on HRT. And the most important thing is obviously finding somebody that is educated and that will go through the pros and cons with each type and see what's, you know, what works best for you. I just got back on HRT. I was on testosterone at the very beginning of perimenopause, and then I got off of it for a while. And now I'm back on a microdose of testosterone and progesterone. And my lady sat down with me. She listened to everything and she says, you know, I'm not going to give you the progesterone cream because you're always outside working out. I'm going to give you a pill. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. You know, I mean, she listened to me. She knew my lifestyle. She knew my needs and really focused in on what I needed, particularly for my journey. And so it's finding somebody that is educated about hormone replacement therapy and getting accurate information, up-to-date information.
Mhm.
And I understand people's concerns. I get it. But
Yeah.
what we have to remember is your body naturally makes these hormones and we are living longer and they are not lasting as long as we need them to last as our body changes. And so all we're doing is putting something back in our body that it already makes on its own. It is a natural thing that we should have this in our body. We should not be living this long without having those hormones. We just have a
Correct.
longer lifestyle now. And so
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that you're just putting natural things back into your body that your body naturally makes.
Right.
And that is a
Absolutely.
hard one for people, but do your research. And again, do what's most comfortable for you. Just, you know,
And
you
go
just,
to more than, and like you said, go to more than one. If your provider isn't
yes,
comfortable, you know, they have, you know, I think it's like menopause.org, and they have a list
yes,
of providers that are near
yes,
you. So, you know, there are menopause specialists out there for what you said to tailor to your specific needs. So
Yes.
don't feel that, you know, if your provider is not informative about what you should be taking, how many milligrams, what the dose is, how, you know, because there's so many different doses
Oh, yeah.
yeah, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, you know, all of those things, you know, find a menopause specialist. And the other thing too, Karen, is what I noticed when it comes to HRTs, and I talk to a lot of, you know, my coworkers, you know, I have many different few, you know, coworkers, and the ones that do have menopause, that are going through menopause, is that, you know, most insurance do pay for it. That's
Yeah.
the other thing.
Yeah.
They automatically thought, well, my insurance won't pay for it. I'm like, of course they will. I go, our insurance pay, like my insurance pays for it. I have actually a zero, at least for the progesterone and the estrogen patches. I mean, I do want to consider doing the testosterone and seeing somebody about that. But yes, they do pay. Most insurances do cover that. And I think women are very misled that almost everyone I spoke to was like, well, I have to pay out of pocket. I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah. No, and really, if it's not FDA approved, so that would be like your
Right.
compound pharmacies. If it's not FDA approved, that's where the struggle is going to be with the insurance. But there's so many options out there that are FDA approved that there's no reason that you can't find something that's not covered. And so, you know, it's the same. There's so many providers that won't even address HRT either. And so if your doctor's not even willing to talk to you about it, again, that's another red flag. Whether you're interested or not, you should at least know, what are my options?
Right.
Yeah.
Are there
Yeah.
supplements that you recommend that aren't hormone replacement therapy? But if I am interested in it, what are my options? And if you've got somebody that's like, well, I don't really believe in that, then that's another issue that you're like, okay, I need to find somebody else.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
I think what's really tough is also because they put me on the antidepressants, saying that it would help with the hot flashes, which it did a little bit, but not enough noticeably that it just made pretty much flatlined me. I was very flat
Yeah.
effect.
I'm
And
sure.
then I was trying different, you know, uh supplements, and you know, it just makes you wonder, like, I'm putting all this stuff in my body, right?
Right.
That's not
Right.
working. So,
Absolutely.
you know, and
And
some
it,
it might work for some people and not for others. So,
Yeah.
but I agree with you, like finding someone who's willing to talk to you about what are all of your options and
Right.
what can we try if this doesn't work.
yeah. And I think a lot of women are also coming from a place where they had a bad experience with birth control. And so they're
Yeah.
like, I'm just doing that again. And it's not the same.
Right.
And so
Right.
that's another, yeah, because they've already got that fear in their mind. And so we have to look at it differently because it is completely different than
Yeah.
the experience
Mhm.
when we started going through birth control way back when.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's so true.
Yeah.
Um, hmm. But
But
and the other thing too, I think I was just thinking back to, like, I think it was one of my friends was saying, we were talking about menopause, and Karen, you sound like I'm the same way. I get very passionate about it. I get very, like, when I talk to my friends about menopause,
listen,
I get very handsy, and I get very, like, you know, I'm on my soapbox, and then they'll sometimes say, well, I'm taking, you know, and they'll mention an herb, you know. And I'm like, okay, that's great, but that'll never replace your estrogen.
yeah. Oh, yeah. No. Yeah. Ashwagandha is great, but that's not in your body.
Right,
So
right, exactly. And I say that too. Well, I'm taking black cohash. Okay, but that won't replace your estrogen.
yeah, yeah, it's totally different.
Totally
Yeah,
different.
I think we get so sold on supplements being
Oh,
the great, you know, answer to it all when, yeah, some of it is good. Some of it works for some people. Maybe it's a placebo effect. I don't know, but
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily actually hit the things that you're missing.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
and the impact on your body that missing those hormones can
Yes.
do
Yeah,
Yeah.
damage. So,
Well, and that was one of the things I've asked my mom several times. Okay, asked might be nice. I yell at my mom all the time. I'm like, have you talked to your doctor about hormone replacement therapy? Because she hasn't been on it for years.
yeah,
And she's like, well, they're not going to put me on it now. I'm too old. And I said, well, not necessarily. It depends on your medical history. You could get back on it. But most importantly, have you talked to your doctor about vaginal estrogen? because we don't talk enough about that. And so that is like a whole nother thing that so many women have no idea about.
Yeah.
Vaginal estrogen is not the same as estrogen. It is not going to do the same thing for you. Vaginal estrogen is just for that local area, which is your vulva, your vagina, all of that.
Yeah.
And she's one that struggles with a lot of UTIs. And I'm like, Mom, this is exactly why you're struggling, because you don't have that protection. Estrogen is your body's protector. And so that's another one that I try to, talking to people at the grocery store. Are you vaginal estrogen? Vaginal estrogen?
I love it.
Yeah.
I do that too. I tell them to the vaginal estrogen, and also the misconception of when I talk about the vaginal estrogen, but I'm not having sex. I go, that doesn't matter.
No. I don't understand why sexual wellness only means intercourse.
No, absolutely. And
that's what we were trained.
Yes, that's what we're trained. And I said, it doesn't matter whether, I haven't been using or I did get a vaginal estrogen, but I'm not having sex, so I don't need to. I go, no, you need it for your urethra and to keep all those muscles so you can have, the flow can, the urine can flow out the way it's supposed to. But you're right, because most women, and my mother has had several UTIs that have, and one that had went septic, and had to go to the hospital. Yeah. And that's actually with geriatric women. This is not an uncommon thing. I have seen several or many, actually, when I was in the medical field, I've seen many geriatric women with UTIs and had to be admitted due to sepsis or the infection has, gone to the kidneys and then become septic. But I that is a huge thing. Why are women in there, in their, 60s, 70s, 80s getting all these UTIs? And you're right. It's because of the vaginal estrogen, just, to protect yourself from those infections. That's the main purpose too.
When you had all of those people come in, did anybody address that? Did anybody even mention that was like something that they could use? I think it's a pretty new push.
Yes, I think it's a new thing. And that's the other thing too. And this is what we were talking about earlier when Gina was talking about all of her symptoms, things she had. I think for a long time, and I had many, I Googled everything from MS to other diseases, autoimmune diseases that I could possibly have. Yeah. And realized, now my aha moment was after researching menopause, following Dr. Mary Claire and other people too, who, and people like you, is that, well, holy cow, holy crap, they've been misdiagnosing us for such a long time. And these women, I've worked in geriatrics. So these women, none of them that I know of were taking estrogen because, at least that I know of for sure, because this was back in maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too. I feel like once we hit menopause, our health, especially that part of our health, they ignore the estrogen, progesterone, the decline of those hormones, and they start treating just our symptoms that is caused by the decline of those hormones. Gina said the antidepressants, maybe some people get put on a low dose antibiotic for reoccurrent UTIs. Maybe some women are given other, the cortisone shots for the frozen shoulder. I mean, really,
they're not addressing.
Then you turn into a hot mess.
The antibiotics is terrible for our microbiome. So that's the last thing we want for our gut health.
100%. And I've seen people who were on low dose antibiotics due to, just preventative type of thing. Or maybe they feel, I mean, women after the age of 50 or whatever, you start menopause, we really are kind of pushed aside a little bit and are gaslit. I mean, it's true. And we need to be honest about that.
Yeah.
And we need to as out as you talking about it.
Yeah. It's so important that we just continue to, be able to advocate for ourselves and understand the things that are out there. Because I have to say, I didn't know a lot about vaginal estrogen a couple of years ago, but the more I followed Kelly Casperson, seeing Mary Claire Haver in live and looking at having some of the other doctors at this this recently. They all talked about it. And I was like, yes, finally, let's talk about this because it is different. It's not going to be solved by your patch. You have to seek that out separately. And it has nothing to do with sex. Yes, it makes sex more comfortable if you are sexually active, but it just makes life more comfortable. It makes wearing pants more comfortable. Your skin is not dry and itchy. It doesn't feel like you have razor blades or that your, pelvic floor is, changing and it's harder to go to the bathroom, or you have incontinence, or you have these infections. It's so much more than just penetration.
Yeah.
Yes, no, absolutely. And you're right. You do get pain. I was having pain just sitting. Where I work, the seat, is so hard that I was like, for a while before I went on my hormones, this is right, I started with menopause. I'm like, oh my God, I can't even sit down. Like, what's wrong with me? There's something must be wrong. But it was just the fact that the loss of estrogen.
Well, I tell this story all the time. I'm sure my husband hates it when I tell the story, but there was a point at the very beginning when I was still kind of clueless as to what was going on with my body. I didn't tell my mother this part, but at one point I'm sitting on the bed, basically crying, thinking that my husband's having an affair because I'm like, it's stinging, it's burning, it's itching. Do I have an STD? Is he stepping out on me? And now he brought this home. And so finally, we have a very good relationship. So I finally just broke down and I was like, what the hell? Like, this hurts so much. And he was shocked and then sad. And so when I talked to my doctor about it, and she goes, oh no, it's just part of the process, sweetheart. And she was kind about it. She wasn't mean, but she's like, unfortunately, a lot of people don't know this. You wouldn't have known. And so I'm thinking, how many other people are running around town thinking their husbands are cheating just because things down there are changing a little bit and we didn't know to look for that and know that there's a solution. And that was probably one of the worst experiences where I was like, are we kidding? Like, people just go around thinking that, this is okay.
It took for me
Holly Berry was saying the same thing on Oprah. She said that she thought her husband had cheated on her.
Oh yeah.
She said that
when I saw it, so I couldn't explain like what was happening. I just knew it was a lot of pain. And then I saw her interviewed on a show. It wasn't the Oprah show, it was long before that. And she said, the doctors kept testing her for STDs and all of this stuff, but she explained how it felt like razor blades.
Yes.
She was having intercourse. And I screamed out. I'm like, that's it right there. I'm telling my husband, I'm like, that's it. What she's saying right there.
Yeah. And these poor guys, they're like, I'm not trying to hurt you. And you're thinking it's not you, it's me, but it's not really me either.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And that's another thing. And so we see so often, and you guys probably see it with girlfriends and people that you talk to, there's a lot of marital issues going through. You see a lot of people separating and divorcing at this age. God, you guys have been together, for 20 plus years. Why now? Well, there's so much of this that we can say, well, I was struggling with brain fog and I had mood swings and I had rage and I couldn't have sex. And you list off all these things that could have been solved. And then you wonder, had I had the proper care and guidance, would that have helped my marriage? And I'm flabbergasted at the amount of marital issues are related to not knowing what to expect.
I would think it would be great now that we're having this conversation and everything. I think it would be great to have something where the men are, the spouses are involved, the partners are involved in being educated and understanding what's going on. Because we, as women, we, if you have a partner or a husband or whatever, we are such caretakers. Like I know my husband's medical records more than he does.
Oh yeah, 100%.
A1C is and his cholesterol and what he's taking. And I think that's something for the men to get involved and be a little bit educated. Like, hey, your wife may be going through a rough time right now. Maybe it's menopause. Maybe understanding empathy and having some empathy and maybe
Yeah.
understanding how to talk to your wife during this time. I think that would be great because like, even my husband was confused. I was very, very irritable and I was just so frustrated. I just felt so frustrated all the time. I was just like, I didn't feel comfortable in my skin. I had the heart palpitation and the brain fog and the dizziness and the breathing and the pain during intercourse. And I'm like, I just, just was so irritated. And I wish, and it's like, it's so weird because
you don't feel like yourself.
you don't feel like yourself. And it's like, it's different than that time of the month because they know, oh, she's having her period. I get that. But this is long term. This is not just a couple of days out of the month. This is now going to be, for the rest of my life. I, don't want to feel like this. So maybe have them understand like going through that stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I do on my, like on my Instagram. Some of the posts are, when you're having hot flashes, this is the way to talk to your husband and let him know what he needs, or your partner. And it's funny because I have clients that are married to women. And so you would think, oh, well, she totally gets it, right? But your experiences are so different, or they don't necessarily line up. One could be going through menopause and the other one's not there yet. So even in same-sex coupled marriages, it's still so different. And you still have to have that communication. And so it is wild. But that's the most important thing you can do, is just continue to talk to them and let them know, I don't need you to make fun of me when I'm having a hot flash or just when I'm hot. Because he's always like, the blankets are on, the blankets are off, the blankets are on. Like, I just need you to bundle up, leave the air alone, and just let me be. And don't mock me, just support me. So have those conversations is so important.
Yeah, for sure.
A funny story, just real quick, because I was talking to him. I always talk to my, my flight attendant friends, like, I go, oh, the estrogen. And then some of them are like, yeah, I just started. It's great. I feel fabulous. And I was looking at myself kind of like in the mirror, I think yesterday or the day before. And I noticed even like on the estrogen, my body started to shift a little. And I was like, oh my God. I go, I don't even need like a boob lift anymore. I'm like, these two pancakes just got kind of like pumped up a little. I looked at myself in the mirror. I'm like, okay, girls, where have you been for the last 2 years? Okay,
you're back.
Well, and it does affect your confidence, because before you're like, well, I don't want to show these off. And now you're like, hey, everybody gets to look at these now.
Yeah.
And I looked down and I was like, hello, ladies, where have you been the last 2 years?
Where have you been? Yes. Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we've been in your abdomen.
Hanging out with your belt.
Yeah. Hanging out in the abdomen. But, now we just feel.
Yes. That's funny. Well, and there you go. And that's your selling point for HRT. There is some magic in there.
That was amazing. I was like, okay, well, I'll take it.
The fountain of youth.
Yeah. At least the corset in a patch, okay.
The little wins. That's all we can focus on.
Right. Exactly. So.
Oh my gosh. Really quick question for you, Karen. You had we always ask our guests which book that they found inspirational, and one of the books that you had mentioned was Untamed. Can you tell us a little bit about Untamed and why you found it so inspirational to you?
That was a Gwendolyn Doyle one. Yeah, right. Yes, Gwendolyn Doyle. Yes. So I read that. That would have been COVID, wasn't it? When she brought that out. That one I liked because I think it was really one of the first books that I had read, so about 5 years ago, that I had read that really talked about stepping into who you were meant to be now. And like her opening chapter in it is talking about oh gosh, if I can remember. I'm not going to be remembered because I have brain fog. Anyway, so it was there for about a millisecond and then it left. But I just remember reading it and thinking, I am right there with her. I want more. I want to do more. I want to step out of the role that I've been in. I've loved that role, but now, my kids are older. They don't need me in that role as much. And it was really eye-opening for me to just kind of put myself out there more in my business. And that has made a big difference as far as just really, the trajectory of where my business has gone, and, launching my own fitness company and continuing to coach and stepping out as a speaker, writing a book. And so that was a big turning point for me. And so, yeah, I liked that one. That was a good one. And it's, like I said, it's 5 years old, definitely worth reading though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, I like that one.
So how can our listeners find you? And we will add the links for those of you who are on here and maybe new to this, but but where can they find you if they have more questions, or if they want to like maybe explore working with you? How can they, what's the best way that they can reach out?
100%. My Instagram is midlife_health_coach. There's lots of free resources that there's links there. I post all the time just about things related to menopause, but also focusing on the mind shift of menopause and really becoming the woman that you are meant to be. My website is midlifehealthcoach.com. Tons of resources on that one too. I have blogs, I have downloads. You can also get access to my book there. My book is also on Amazon. You could literally order it today and start tracking your journey tomorrow, and be able to take that in and say, help me, give me the proper medical care I deserve. And so I would say those are probably the big two that I'm on. I am on Facebook, but I'm boring on Facebook. So yeah, I do better on Instagram for some reason. I'm not on TikTok. I don't have the energy to keep up with that one. But website and Instagram is probably the best place to find me.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, thank
having
you.
this little chit chat and bringing your expertise to the table, which is so like valuable, and we appreciate that you took the time to come and chat with us about
100%.
what you do with people and how your journey led to that. So.
Well, yes, I love that you guys are talking about this, and we can't take it serious all the time. We do have to laugh about it. It is serious, but at the same point, we've got to be able to kind of lean in and see the humor in it, and make it our best second half. And some of that just, not taking it so seriously.
Yeah. I think that's the other thing about this generation too, is things are just a little bit more serious about these type of topics and taboo back, the generation ahead of us or in stuff. But we are more like, Gen X and are more like, no, I'm going to freaking talk about this. This stuff is,
we're going to put it all out there. We're going to mention it all.
We have to just put it all out there and then make fun of it. So
that's right.
Those parodies, those are my favorites, because we do have to laugh about it, because it is a shared experience. And so we're so fortunate to have this sisterhood and being able to lean on one another, because that really does make it so special. And hopefully our daughters' generations also have that ability to do that with each other.
Yeah. And educating our daughters now. My daughter's 25. And my future daughter-in-law, and I start talking to them about it now.
Oh yeah.
When you start getting into that age and you start feeling these symptoms, and it can happen anywhere between your late 30s to your early 50s. Just don't ignore it, and don't let anyone tell you that you're crazy. So
right. Yeah, no kidding.
I like that lean in, Debbie.
Yeah, she's like, listen.
That's awesome. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you so much, ladies.
Absolutely.
Karen, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a great the rest of your Friday, and happy birthday.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. We don't count after 50.
Oh yeah. A special day for cake.
Special day for cake. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you so much.